And I always talk about why we're doing office hours. This is important in adult education to know why we're doing certain things. And one of the reasons is that we know within high leverage practices by the Council for Exceptional Children, they have these 22 items that when we use these practices, they have the greatest impact on student achievement. And number 19 of those 22 is to use assistive and instructional technologies. So we want to make sure we're looking at AT. When we're considering assistive technology, we often look through the SET framework, and that's looking at the student, the environments, the tasks, and then overlaying the assistive technology tools on top of that. And this is a great tool for equity. It allows us to look and get everything for the student that it is that exactly what they need. And now I'm going to turn it over to today's guests, who are Joselyn Rhein and Tina Olson, both from Northern Lights Special Education Co-op, and they are going to introduce themselves and teach us a lot about low and no tech writing tools. So welcome, Joselyn and Tina.
Hello, I'm Tina Olson. I'm the teacher for the physically impaired. I'm going to share first here and talk about some low-tech kits that we put together here at the co-op that we let teachers check out to have in their classrooms. So kind of how this started is a few years ago, the director asked us to do a little study and ask them if teachers are addressing AT on the IEP and the evals, and if they knew how to get technology, if they knew a variety of different maybe technology that they might be able to try. And so we did give some teachers low-tech kits to have in their room to try right at hand. And then plus, if they wanted a high-tech one, they could ask us and we could get it for them. And another thing is just to know where to go get them, like the Northern Library, the Lighthouse for Vital Living are some of those high-tech places that you can get items. So Julie, if you go to the next slide, we did these low-tech kits. We have preschool, which is new. I think last year we did a preschool one, and elementary, and we do have a middle and high school one too to check out for teachers. They can check them out through the Northern Lights co-op here from one of us. And then they can have it for 6 weeks and then we take it back. So a few things that are in them, I put a list of just a few items that are in them. I have a few to show, like the slat board. This is the preschool one. It has a cute little animal timer, which I thought was kind of cool in there. And then also these pencil buddies. They're shorter, but yet thicker pencils. So those were in that kit. Some other things we have is a variety of scissors. These little kids, little preschoolers are trying out which scissors might work best for them. So those are in there. There also is a little seat cushion. We have a wiggly little preschooler that needs to wiggle while they're sitting in a chair or on the rug. And then also a little pressure vest is in there. So those are just some items that the teacher can check out, and then it's in their classroom, and then they can just grab them as they see that the student might need that. And then they can trial it, and then their district can purchase them for the student. So it's kind of a nice little quick box that you can grab right there when the child's having an issue, which I think is nice because sometimes the child isn't sitting still and we're like, what can we use? And here you can, oh, I have this box. Let's try this quick. We'll try the seat cushion. And you can throw your own things. You could make your own box. These are just ideas that we had thrown together. I'm going to show the elementary one. And in the elementary one, we also have like a low-tech guide, and it has a picture of each item and then how they could use it in their classroom with the child. We also have just laminated a list of some other areas, activities of daily living, and then some ideas of technology that might be beneficial to help in that area. And we have some set framework paperwork. And then we also have a little data sheet if they wanted to collect data to prove that they need those items for that child in their classroom. So just a little thing to help them and guide them with some of them, because sometimes I had questions. I'm not sure what this tool is used for. So I think that's just helpful for the teachers. In the elementary kit, we have some triangular jumbo crayons. And they can go ahead and use these, and we can always refill them after, crayons will last for a while. But like pencils, they can go ahead and use them and then just put them back in there. Or the different types of paper. And I mean, we even put little, alphabet, just a little visual in there. We have some sand timers. And in this one, there's a bunch of pencil grips, different kind of pencil grips to try with students, which is kind of nice because you don't know which one's going to work for each child, and it might be different. And you can try it, then you can order the ones that work best for those students. Another thing, just easy highlighters sometimes work, just as a quick tool that you forget about. I think and that one has a slant board in it too. I mean, different kind of raised paper is in there, lined paper, thicker or smaller. That's in those bins. So those have been a nice thing added to the library just to have for that teacher to say, just on the fly, to be able to pull out of there and try right away. They're easy to make. If you wanted to make one for your own classroom, you could do that too, and kind of find things at the dollar store. Even sticky notes are a good thing to put in there. Overlays, anything you can think of. A little fidget. Sometimes we have some fidgets in there for the students. So those are the preschool and the elementary kits that we have for checkout. So next slide. These are just, why would teachers use them? They're just quick, easy resource, inexpensive, items are readily available, and you can easy accommodations that make a big difference. All right, next slide.
All right, these ones are mine. So I'm Joselyn Rhein. I am one of the occupational therapists at Northern Lights Special Education Co-op. So some of the next 3 items I'm going to talk about are in some of those kits that Tina actually just talked about. So I'm going to start first with short pencils. So I have one just kind of in comparison of how much smaller it is compared to large pencils. Or traditional size pencils. So this is one of my favorite low-tech tools that I frequently use, especially for those early elementary students. Sometimes I think small hands need small tools. So that's a good reason to use a small pencil. You can find these on Amazon. That's where I find mine. You can find them online. You can get them from like the golf course. Those don't have erasers, which is a bummer. So why would we even use short pencils? They help promote a more functional grasp when writing. So that tripod, quadrupod grasp, we often have kids that want to use their whole hand, and giving them a smaller tool forces them to have a smaller surface area to hold. They are also lighter than traditional size pencils. It's hard to think that that's even possible, but when you compare the two, they really are lighter than a traditional pencil. You can also use short crayons or short markers. Markers are a little bit harder to find online, but you can also just save your broken crayons. So that's another good way to use short crayons. Next slide, please, Julie. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about are dry erase crayons. So I have the box here. This one is from Crayola. I haven't used any from any other company, and they just look like a regular crayon, just different colored paper on them. So I recommend these to all ages of students, really, and over using a dry erase marker. So again, you can buy them online. They come in a pack of 8. And some of the reasons I recommend using a dry erase crayon over a dry erase marker is they provide more resistance when writing. So it gives a lot more feedback to the student on what they're writing, brings awareness to those stroke patterns, and helps encourage them to slow down a little bit. Sometimes I find that using a dry erase marker can be too fast or too slippery almost on a whiteboard. So using the crayon really helps slow them down and can improve legibility significantly. The other cool thing about them is they are a little bit harder to erase, which is actually a good thing. They have to push a little bit harder. And I actually have that as part of like a informal hand strengthening program for a student. Is it just works on that upper extremity strength. And I guess the last really cool thing about these crayons are they can just be regular crayons as well. So sometimes that's nice to have a tool that can be used in a variety of ways. All right. Next slide, Julie. Thank you. Okay, so Tina talked a little bit about the slant board in some of our kits that we have. So I'm also going to talk a little bit about just using like a vertical surface for students. So I have like a true slant board that you can buy. Otherwise, you can make your own by getting a 3-inch wide 3-ring binder, and you can just either tape a paper on top of the top, or I've even used little clamps and hot glued them on there to make my own slant boards. And having encouraging vertical surfaces for students by having them use a clipboard and write on the floor on their stomachs, or just using a whiteboard on the wall or a regular easel. So using a vertical surface or a slant board, it can be really beneficial for our students. It helps put their wrist into extension. So sometimes we have students that write like this, but putting a vertical surface or a slant board helps put it in a more functional position for them. It also gives a little bit more surface area for them to write, giving more control to that, their writing patterns and their stroke patterns. Another cool thing about the slant boards is when students are copying from a desk and they're copying on the board, they're doing a lot of this, a lot of that head movement, visual transferring of information. But when you add in a slant board, it brings it up. So there's just not quite as much movement happening, helps them stay on task a little bit easier. It improves their copying abilities as well. The last thing too is we all know those students that just like slump over their desk. I'm sometimes that student too. As they're writing, they just fold further and further into their desk. But using a slant board helps bring that paper up towards them. It helps eliminate that like slumping over posture. So overall, it just improves their posture, which also improves their alertness to learning tasks. That's the last of the slide.
All right, and so I did put I wanted to add another writing tool that you can use with your extensions or with Google, and it's Co-Writer. They also have an app too, and Co-Writer is a word prediction software that can be added to like your Google Docs, and then you can click on it and then use it as a prediction, and other tools. So if we look at the video, you can see what different options they have too there. So we can go to the video.
I'm not sure if I need to unmute myself or mute myself, so let's try out the sound.
Your chats, your...
Good.
Co-Writer is a predictive text generator. Once Co-Writer is turned on by clicking on the toggle, it automatically starts to predict what I want to write.
Typing. Start typing here.
As you notice, as I type, the program reads what I've typed. I can also enable the text-to-speech feature. This feature is especially useful for students who struggle to type. And I can enable that by clicking on the microphone here and clicking on the microphone in the box. Please start typing here, period. And I click the microphone again for it to stop listening to me. I also want to show you the options available to you in CoWriter. So if you click on the CoWriter extension and go to options, there are different features here. The ones that I do want to show you are here. You can change the number of guesses in that box that shows. You can also change the font. What I really like is changing the background color from white to a different color that stands out. So as you can see, my box is yellow and it stands out better than just being plain white. I can also change the voice. Maybe I don't like David and I want to change it to this one.
Welcome to the CoWriter extension. You can change the pitch, rate, and volume of speech using the sliders below.
You can change those things right here using these sliders.
If you have an hour this week, you can...
All right, thank you. This one has been around for a long time and has really changed, but I think it's more for that upper elementary, middle school students that are struggling with that writing. And plus, I do like that it says the whole sentence after you have the period, because sometimes they're saying it as you're typing. And I think sometimes that's too much for students. So it's just another extension that you can use. It's a yearly subscription. I have not tried the app on my phone at all, so not sure how that is with CoWriter on that. So next slide. And then we have some questions that came in. How to improve reading fluency, some writing interventions. And if we go to the resources, I just kind of looked up some. And perfect. So with the SMART strategies, or the 6 strategies to improving writing, are there below. Just some ideas that they came up with when I went to research it. Is just showing them your own fluency, which I thought was interesting. How many times do we read a paragraph fluently to our students so that they can see that? So I really like that idea. And then teaching your child how to track words, choral reading, focus on sight words, recruit a friendly audience, and then record and evaluate. And I thought that was a good way to work on that fluency, where if you had a child doing a practice and you recorded them, and then having them listen back and see what they commented on it. The next is just 3 techniques to use to improve fluency. So they just recommended the choral reading, the closed reading, and then partner reading. So I think a lot of that just practicing out loud so they can hear themselves reading. And the last one is, I'm not really sure. The question was a good reader and then has trouble spelling. And all I could come up with was a sensory approach, where you really work on those, putting those words physically, making them with the alphabet so that they can see that. Or another option is drawing a picture of the word they're trying to work on spelling. It's been a good way to work on that spelling piece. And I think that's just hard because it's just our language. I was researching it a little bit, and English language is hard. So it's hard for students to learn that. And then the exceptions, and then this rule and that rule. So those were just a few that I just wanted to make sure I I checked on. And then I know the next slide we'll talk about some other questions. Oh, thank you. And then I just put a list of writing interventions at the end that you could use in your classroom. And a lot, some we know, the graphic organizers, step by step, different things like that.
Oh, and then our next slide is just Q&A. Did you want me to hop into those questions that we had in the registration form?
Yeah, or does anyone have questions before we do that, maybe?
Sure. Yeah, so feel free to unmute yourselves, hop in with any questions, type them in the chat window if you'd rather do it that way.
Julie, ISD 709 does not have co-writer, correct?
We do not right now, Deb, and we have had some issues in the past with subscription things, but I'm actually meeting with a rep from Text Help tomorrow afternoon to hopefully talk about some changes that they've had in the subscription that maybe would make that an option for us, at least for a trial in the future.
Right. My concern is my kids that have speech issues that voice typing doesn't work for. And so this to me seems like the next best thing.
Yeah. Yes, you're right.
Great. Any other questions or even things that you're using too that might be great options for you? Feel free to hop in.
Tina, I joined late, so maybe you already said this, but I'm wondering, did you have like a list of the supplies that you have in those kits?
I had just a few of them, just a handful. I don't have the full list.
Okay.
But I could, for sure, the elementary kit, we have a whole list, and I could share that.
That would be great.
I'll put it in the chat, Tina.
What?
I can put a link in the chat.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Shannon.
Great. And well, keep the questions coming. I'm going to toggle myself over to the questions that came in during registration just to make sure there weren't any other ones. I think there was one other one, but feel free to jump in with another question while I'm sliding over there. Okay, the one other question that came in was, do you have typing interventions for K-8?
And I just said like a type to learn software. And I would just Google that and then see what different software comes up or apps to work on. Or a media person.
I have used last year. Oh, I was just what Krista said. Typing Club. I've used Typing Club as well.
Oh,
and what's
that's right.
nice, so I've set it up for a couple students, and you can adjust the level of difficulty. It can only go so low, but it's nice that you can adjust that for students. And it's fun. I think most students like it.
Awesome. And I know in ISD 709, sometimes the media centers for the schools have links on their websites of some typing programs, but they might be the exact ones you've just referred to. So great.
It is Typing Club free, do you know?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. I think you've addressed these either in things that you've already said or in questions that have come up in person here. So thank you so much for sharing that. Let's open it up, keep it open, I guess, for questions and sharing of any more resources that you've got too. Oh, Amy just typed in the chat window. I'll read this out. Do we have access to one-handed typing programs like 5-finger typing, or is that on Typing Club? I've not come across it on Typing Club. Do either of you know about that particular portion of that?
I don't.
I personally do not either. That's a great question. We should find that answer though, because that's going to keep coming up with other students too.
Yeah. because you probably have to have both hands on the home row to make it work, or one-handed typing.
Krista,
There's like a program called one-handed typing or five-finger typing, I think it's called.
I just Googled typing.
Similar to Typing Club.
Oh, go ahead. I just Googled
the for a program, so I just didn't know if we have something similar to that we have access to.
It looks like Typing Club has something.
So Krista just dropped a link in the chat window that looks like it is the one-hand typing section of the Typing Club program.
I wonder if that is within the settings where you can adjust the difficulty level too. I would maybe,
I bet.
Or if that's something you have to do right away from the beginning. That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, it looks like if you just type on which hand you want to do, it'll start you with those lessons. It'll teach you how to do it using just one hand.
Excellent crowdsourcing of information.
Nice.
What other questions are out there? And with this teacher wait time, I will go ahead and stop the recording.